I'm Ashleigh, I'm an archaeologist at Trinity Burial Ground, and I work predominantly with the coffin fittings. I always wanted to be an archaeologist. I did my undergraduate degree in Egyptology, discovered that I was terrible at languages, so went on to do a master's in archaeology. I ended up specialising in coffin fittings for my dissertation, and then I started a GT scheme here with OA, and I've been here ever since. During my master's, I did my dissertation on coffin fittings. The approach I took was a more scientific one. I was analysing the chemical compositions of the metals used, and shortly after that I became interested in the motifs and designs of the breastplates and grips and their plates. So here at Trinity Burial Ground, we clean them, and then I will look at the designs and look for any biographical data. Ones that come from the graves tend to be covered in mud, so I have to clean them with modelling clay tools, and then I pick off any corrosion that is going to loosely come off. Those that come from the tombs just need a little brushing off. Once I've finished cleaning them and I've had a look at them, they go to be stored so that Jen can reunite them at the end with the skeletons and they can be reburied. So using the biographical data from the breastplate, we can hopefully ID them with the skeletons, and then we can use that information to check the burial record, make sure everything's good. Then by looking at the motifs, we can compare them to motifs from other sites, predominantly those from London. On the table, I've got a selection of things that have come from one of the coffins from one of the tombs. We've got 2 lid motifs, which came from the lid of the coffin. We've got some coffin lace. This one's quite fancy. And then we've got 2 examples of the grips and their plates. So the lid motifs are very nice. This one came from the head of the coffin, so it covered the skull. And this one came from just above the shins. They're not exactly a matching set, but they have got different types of motifs that kind of tie all in together. So the head motif has got a flaming torch and an Ouroboros. And then this lid motif has also got an Ouroboros just at the top of it. As for other similarities, this lid motif is depicting a classical temple. So you've got 2 pillars here and then the roof. And then when you look at the coffin plates, these are also the same. So they're quite classical in style, they're not very typically Christian. You've also got the coffin lace, as mentioned before. It's quite decorative, more so than your typical stuff you find from these sorts of burials. It's got more of a floral motif. Arguably, some people say they look like shells, but I think they're leaves. As for the handles that come with these plates, these are floral in design, which is kind of nice because it ties into the coffin lace. Generally, the site's very exciting because it's the first of its kind in the north. We don't really get many post-medieval cemetery excavations up here. Most of them are done around London, and there's been a couple in Birmingham. Personally, this site's really exciting because I'm able to look at the motifs that are very different from those in London. For instance, we've discovered that there's a lot of motifs that are more classical in style, and there's also the inclusion of mourning figures, which you don't really see in any of the other documented sites.